Hey guys, welcome back to Out of Ink. I'm Olivia, and since last time I talked about the Absolute comics, I wanted to talk about the competition, Marvel's Ultimate Universe. When this set of comics came out, I was very excited. I got into comics at the tail end of the life of the original Ultimate line, being enchanted enough by the Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales to backtrack and seek out other titles like Ultimate X-Men. Miles is still my favorite Spider-Man, and I think I just love discovering everything new and different the Ultimate comics were compared to what I knew. I was actively reading when the Ultimate comics were integrated into the 616 main universe, so I was curious and excited when the Ultimate label was coming back. So what's the deal with the Ultimate Universe? Well, to answer that, we have to go back into the original Ultimate canon. In those stories, Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, became a villain known as the Maker, and he was one of the pieces of the Ultimate Universe that had been brought into the 616, and he's just been kind of scheming and causing trouble once in a while since. However, I guess he finally decided to do something, as this Ultimate Universe boils down to an experiment by the Maker. He went back in time and altered history so that key heroes never got their abilities, and then placed several of his allies in position of power to control the world from the shadows. I find this premise to be intriguing, and I've gotta say I was interested in a lot of the new titles for this universe, especially Ultimate Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men, but I was most interested in the return of the Ultimate Spider-Man. I was sold when I heard that this was the story of what if Peter Parker was married with a family. It's not like this hasn't been done before. Many comic characters have been married for a long time, including Peter and Mary Jane, who had been married in the comics for 20 years before the events of One More Day and Mephisto's micro-retcon. Personally, I'm just a big fan of a lot of stories that have Peter and MJ living their best domestic lives together, such as Spider-Girl, which is a long-running series featuring the superhero adventures and teenage drama of Peter's daughter Mayday Parker, and Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, an alternate universe where Peter, MJ, and their daughter Annie navigated the growing pains of being a family and fighting crime together. Ultimate Universe Spider-Man 1-6 is the story of Everyman Peter Parker, written by Jonathan Hickman, with art by Marco Checchetto and colors by Matt Wilson. Peter Parker is a normal 30 to 40-something-year-old New York resident. He is married to Mary Jane and they have 2 children, Richard and May. Peter works at the Daily Bugle with all the usual folks, Betty Brant, J. Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson, and his Uncle Ben. Oh yeah, you heard me right, Uncle Ben still is alive in this timeline. Because there was no Spider-Man, Uncle Ben lived on in this timeline. However, before the events of this story, Aunt May passed away due to a catastrophe caused by Tony Stark not too long before the events of this book. But that's something I'd like to get into at a later date. The most important part is that both May and Ben were still a part of Peter's life up until very recently at this point in the story. Although Peter is content with his life, he feels like something is missing, and it turns out he was right. One day, a mysterious briefcase with a holographic message from Tony Stark, a known terrorist in this timeline, tells Peter that his destiny was stolen from him, and to save the world from the sinister machinations that are holding it down, that he needs to don the webs again. He is given a vial with a radioactive spider, a pico shell with a suit inside, and a choice. Peter allows himself to be bitten and begins crime fighting, and this is almost immediately challenged by the appearance of the Green Goblin. However, Green Goblin is Harry Osborn, a wealthy businessman who obtained Stark's assets in a shady deal. Harry is aware of the shadow government controlling the world, and despite Peter's reservations on how to go about doing it, Harry and Peter team up to fight back against those who control the world, starting with New York's own Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. These 6 issues are an easy read, being paced perfectly with gorgeous visuals and colors, but honestly, the best thing about these books is the writing. The banter is on point, the callbacks, like a certain suspicious suit and a pico shell, are wonderful, and most important is the characterization. Mary Jane and Peter's chemistry is undeniable. Characters that haven't been around for a long time are modernized and make sense, like with how intense and logical Gwen is, and how Uncle Ben is this fatherly force of calm. Most importantly, the way the characters are makes sense for the world that they live in. Many of us tend to forget that Peter was originally around 16 years old when he got his powers. He was a sullen, nerdy kid who got bullied and then became a superhero, going through the trauma of losing his uncle and eventually others, and then dealing with the crushing responsibilities of saving the day, all from the time he was barely old enough to drive. Without being Spider-Man, this Peter is unburdened. You can still see the character we know with his sense of responsibility and sort of awkward sense of humor. He's just more well-adjusted. This applies to most of the characters we see. To me, everyone makes sense that this is where they are at and this is how they would be without the presence of heroes, particularly Spider-Man. Just watching all of this unfold is such a treasure, and I can't express how much I adore these books. Not only are these books just well-crafted and interesting comics that I plan on returning to again, I can't help but feel that this is the story that a lot of people are looking for. Lately, I haven't been keeping up with 616 Spider-Man because I'm tired of watching Peter blow up his life every 50 issues or so, fix things, and then plunge back into a cycle of self-pity, and I don't think I'm alone. I keep hearing about people being tired of Spider-Man being a mess, and I don't blame them a bit. I feel that both Marvel and DC have been straining to keep their books going continuously, and books like Batman and Spider-Man are indicative of this unsustainable idea of keeping these stories going without changes or an end. Ultimate Spider-Man has felt like a huge relief and a joy to so many people. I've only heard good things about it and how people seem happy to see an interpretation of Spider-Man where Peter has moved on a little. I recently online found this article that Marvel's current editor, Tom Brevoort, has confirmed earlier in November that apparently Marvel will not be allowing MJ and Peter to get married for the foreseeable future. They are apparently allowed to be together, they just can't make it official. I understand that people don't have to be married to be committed to each other, or that marriage isn't the key to happiness. But you, me, and anyone who's read a mainline Spider-Man title knows what this means. More back and forth, more non-commitment, and most unfortunately, more sad boy Peter. I'm afraid that Marvel is just too scared to alienate its audience, or too afraid to change too much, or they maybe buy into the idea that an angry fan is a reading one, and are just going to keep Peter alone and keep him in this destructive cycle while selling us happy, non-canon fantasies of Peter having a better life in comics like Ultimate Spider-Man. But I hope they see that they have people who will read the comics if they ease up on Peter. It isn't about him being married or having a family, it's about Peter being able to move on with his life. You can still keep the comic going without Peter going through a crisis in his personal life every 20 books or so. You can let him grow up because there are characters like Miles and Gwen's Ghost Spider that can explore being a young spider person. I just personally believe that holding Peter Parker back from moving on with his life as a character isn't helping people, including myself, stay reading. I will, however, be keeping up with Ultimate Universe Spider-Man. I fully intend to talk more about the arcs in the future and would love to know any of your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking of Ultimate Spider-Man in the comments down below. On that note, thanks for listening, guys. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time, here on Out of Ink. Bye!